50 से अधिक वर्ष से लगा हूँ हिंदी, संस्कृत और संस्कृति के प्रचार और प्रसार में। यहाँ शुरू में तो लिखने के लिए, प्रकाशन के लिए सहूलियत नहीं थी। हम हाथ से लिख के ही मैगजीन बनाते थे। बाद में जीरोक्स यंत्र आ गया, जीरोक्स के ब्लूप्रिंट से बना मैगजीन बनाते थे। फिर 1990s में कंप्यूटर आ गया, फिर मैंने अपने फॉन्ट बनाए, फिर हमारी गति बढ़ गई। फिर हमने ऑनलाइन हिंदी फ्री क्लासेस शुरू कर दी और किताबें लिखनी, अपने फॉन्ट बनाकर किताबें लिखनी शुरू कर दी। तो पिछले 40 साल से 50 साल से हम किताबें बना रहे हैं। तकरीबन मेरी सारी किताबें तकरीबन अमेज़न पर अवेलेबल है। 40 से अधिक किताबें हैं।
तो मानी बात है कि बहुत सारी चीजें जो हैं उतनी अच्छी उभर के नहीं आई, लेकिन बहुत अच्छे लेखक भी पैदा हुए और उनकी जबान में भी फर्क है। जो हम लोग लिखते हैं, जो रोज हम लोग एक रंदे की तरह अपने को घिसते हैं और भाषा के सिलसिले से हम एक अलग तरह के तजर्बे से गुजरते हैं, वो तजर्बे जो हैं विदेश में रहने वालों के लिए नहीं हो पाते हैं। वो 3-4 ज़बानों से जूझते हैं। एक अपनी लोकल ज़बान से, जिससे वो फैमिली से बात करते होंगे। दूसरी ज़बान ये है कि जहाँ वो रहते हैं वो ज़बान उन पे हावी रहती है। तीसरे दुनिया के स्तर पे अंग्रेज़ी से करते हैं और फिर वो लौट के आते हैं हिंदी के ऊपर लिखते हैं। तो भाषा पे बहुत सारे सवाल उठ सकते हैं और जो उपन्यास है इसीलिए कम लिखे गए हैं, कहानियाँ ज़्यादा लिखी गई हैं, क्योंकि उपन्यास लिखना एक्चुअली अपने से जुदा होना, अपनी दुनिया से जुदा होना और प्रामाणिकता लाने के लिए आपको कई किरदारों को एक साथ पैदा करना, बनाना, एक शहर को बसाना, उसमें खिड़कियाँ, दरवाजे और पर्दे लगाना, ये बहुत वो है। अब वहाँ का संघर्ष, मैं कह लीजिए जीवन या जो भी पकड़ हो, ये तो हमारे लेखक बताएंगे, लेकिन उपन्यास बहुत कम लिखे गए हैं। मेरे ख्याल से मुझे अच्छी तरह याद है, पहला उपन्यास मैंने सुषम बेदी जी का हवन पढ़ा था और मुझे उसका जो पूरा माहौल था उसने मुझे बड़ा डिस्टर्ब किया था। लेकिन शायद वो वक्त से पहले लिखा हुआ उपन्यास था, क्योंकि जैसे जिंदगी में धर्म दाखिल हो रहा है और इंसान अपने अंदर की दुनिया को गुनाहों से भर भी रहा है और माफ़ी के लिए देखता वो उन चीज़ों को है जो उसको दे भी सकते हैं कुछ और कुछ नहीं भी दे सकते हैं। और दूसरी ये है कि भाषा, जहाँ जहाँ भाषा लड़खड़ा रही है, 5 ज़बानों के साथ जब आप हैंडल करते हैं बहुत बड़ा विषय, तो वहाँ पे फिर भाषा को भी, तो मैं ये कहूँगी कि जो लोग बहुत ज़्यादा प्रवासी साहित्य के ऊपर बातें करते हैं, वो कुछ ऐसा भी इंतज़ाम करें कि एक एडिटर हो जो इन लोगों की भाषा को उस तरह से एकदम अप टू डेट करे।
I'm just another instrument. This is, my discovery is not developed. Is that the various developments in my life shows that I'm now obligated. The more I know, the more I should share. And but more importantly, I think if you read the Gita, chapter 18, verse 63, it states very, very clearly that the Gita, has so much knowledge, but it is up to the person, to have the freedom to choose to apply whatever that's learned. And that's the beauty, can I say, the most beautiful thing, because although everything is there in the Gita, you talk about Krishna, you talk about Arjuna, but then at the end of the day, you're free to choose to accept whether, the Krishna is the Krishna you want the Krishna to be.
Very difficult to translate. Sanskrit, there is no word for so many, there's no English word for dharma, right? There is no word for it's very hard to translate one Sanskrit word. You need a whole paragraph or maybe a page to explain what that word means.
And so I think, writing is about self-discovery and realizing where you are comfortable and where you're not. And that's one of the reasons why I write is because I often don't feel comfortable, really sharing sharing what I think, and it's ironic, but I actually don't feel comfortable putting myself out there, and so writing for me is my way of working out what I think and how I feel, and then somehow, like alchemy, then my work ends up published and exposed to other people, and that's a very strange experience, because generally I'm just writing predominantly for myself to work out what it is I think, and how I view the world, and how I somehow fit in it. And I think that's part of this diaspora condition, where you do feel like an outsider, and where you're trying to work out, oh, do I fit in India? And then when you go back there, you think, oh, maybe I don't. And then when you come to Australia, oh, do I fit in here? And then you think, oh, do I have a right to claim this place? Because after all, it was like India, it was overtaken by the English, and there were original inhabitants. So all these complex questions are raised. And so writing for me is an opportunity to wrestle with some of those thoughts, but also rest with them, where I can actually sit quietly and contemplate those things. And the beautiful thing about writing, for me, I find, is that I can do it in different forms. So it's not always just, a hard wrestle. It might be a play. So, so in fact, my whole career started from writing a play. It was a very, and plays are slim.
So, and I started with poetry. I went on to short stories. And finally, when I felt confident, I started writing novels. And I love all those forms, but I think the novel is really my favorite because it is the most challenging of the forms. For the Mahabharata, actually, even though it is a very complex, complicated, and much larger text, it was relatively simple because although there are several versions of the Mahabharata, Vyas remains like the main source. And people have deviated a little bit here and there from Vyas, but not so much. So, Vyas was my main source. Kashiram Das in Bengal was my second source with the Bengali Mahabharata.
Right.
And then modern retellings by Raja Gopalachari and Kamala Subramaniam, people like that who are my sources. But with the Ramayana, oh my goodness, there are so many Ramayans. There are like literally 100 Ramayans. And so I had to choose my sources very carefully. Valmiki is my main source. And again, there is the Bengali Kritibasi Ramayana from many centuries back. That was a major source because, the Bengali versions of the Mahabharata and Ramayana, I grew up hearing them. My mother used to read them to me. So I have a lot of love in my heart for those. And the interesting thing about the Ramayana versions is they're quite different from each other. Even from Vyas to Ramcharitmanas, there is a big, there's a big shift. There are many differences.
I mean, you take, for example, there is and my reading is so diverse and has always been so diverse. You take a book like, for example, a book by Fritjof Capra called The Tao of Physics, which talks about actually the overlap between quantum theory and spirituality. And that was a book that inspired me to actually write The Bookkeepers of the Kal Chakra.
Yes.
Or, for example, a book like, let's say, for example, a book like Holger Kirsten's Jesus Lived in India. It's the first book that eventually brought me closer to the idea that for those times, Jesus was the equivalent of a yogi. And it inspired me to write the Rosabal line, to talk about the possible connections between Christ and India, or the fact that he had borrowed so heavily from Buddhist philosophy. You read the Sermon on the Mount, and it's almost as if it has been taken out of Buddhist thinking entirely.
Absolutely.
So I think there have been a lot of books like that. And of course, even in the world of fiction, today you take someone like Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children. it's a book which probably I must have read at least 3-4 times, because it's a book which produces insane amounts of jealousy in me, because I know that I will never be able to write like that. But at the same time, you always look at it in amazement, and you wonder that how have these sentences been framed? How has this tapestry been woven? There are I would say probably books which have opened up different vistas. Like, for example, Dominique Lapierre's Freedom at Midnight. I mean,
Yes.
that was a book which sort of told me, hey, I don't even realize that I'm reading history. History can be told as a wonderful story. Why do we make history so boring? So there are many books like that which I have gone back to more than once.
And my number one tip for anybody who comes to my writing workshop is that if you want to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. Learn to read, consume books, eat books for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And only then should you hope to be a good writer. I always thought that I have the, you know what they say about the power of the pen. And I said, I have this power. I have the power to put ideas in words and present it to the world. And if I have that power, why can't I use it to change, the conditions for women? After all, even if it is a cliche, this cliche is something that is reality, that we do hold up half the universe, and then we don't sort of get what we are meant to get. We don't get what we deserve. So I said, let me use my words to write books that will make an impact on their lives, change perceptions, change mindsets, give them hope and give them motivation. So yes, my books, a large part of my books are women-centric. Subconsciously, it was not deliberately, but I think subconsciously, I tend to write books like that about fiction and non-fiction. I would say that fiction gives hope. Fiction gives hope to people. Fiction holds up examples, shining examples of what the human spirit is capable of, and we can all take inspiration from these stories. Nonfiction gives a welcome break to all of us to go into another world, live in the world that the author has created. Even if it is for a brief few hours, you still get to live life vicariously. So fiction is amazing. But for me, nonfiction is even more amazing because these are real stories, flesh and blood people who have risen above their challenges and showed us what exemplary lives we can lead.
So Ikigai is a Japanese word, and it is composed by several Japanese characters. The first one means life or being alive. And this meaning can be used for humans or for animals or plants. And the second character, it means something like worthwhile. So it means like being a living being, it is worthwhile. So this is a very literal translation. It gets complicated, but if you put it down together, it would be like saying in English, your purpose of your life. Or we like better to say, is that thing that makes you wake up jumping from the bed in the morning. Like you are looking forward to your day. And that when that happens, it means that you are looking forward to your day. That means that you are in a happy time in your life where you're connected with your purpose in life, with your Ikigai. If you wake up in the morning and you're not looking forward to your day, you are like hating your boss, or you don't want to do anything this day, that's bad news. That means that you are not living with your Ikigai, or you are a little bit lost in life. And that's bad news, but it's also good news because we are here that's why we wrote the book. The book is to help you if you are going through hard times in life, which has happened to all of us.
You can have several Ikigais, and actually it depends on the character of the person. There are people who follow the same track all their lives because they are passionate with one thing. And this is typical in professions like doctors, like teachers sometimes, philosophers, maybe artists, painters. But what is normal is to change your purpose maybe every 7 years. This is something that has been calculated, estimated.
Really?
So you discover something, and then you put all your heart and all your energy in this new thing, and then you complete your way, and then you come to the conclusion, I know now everything what I can give to this. So I need a new challenge, and I start something new. And so it's totally normal that somebody can be happy when he's young, working in a company, and then you need that your Ikigai is building your startup and starting something for you. And then maybe you are older and you want to do something for the community, something for the world, and then you do something more humanitarian. So Ikigai changes as much as we change ourselves. When you reinvent yourself, when you are reborn in something new, then your purpose changes too.
Start small, and again, the same thing. Start small and be patient. And these days, the possibilities within the internet are endless. And my advice is you really start small and think long term. If you love painting, you can start today in the morning. You do your painting and you create an Instagram account and you put the painting on Instagram and you start following people. And in one day, nothing will happen usually. And in 1 week, no. But if you do this every day for 2-3 years, I guarantee you will have an audience for these kinds of, you're talking about artists, which is difficult, but it is possible. And once you have an audience, you can create an online shop and start sending your art. Like, this is a limited edition print. And this is just an idea. You can start exhibitions, and that will not bring you a lot of money. Let's say that now you are like 2-3 years in, but you will start having some proud. That will help you to motivate you. Okay, now I'm making, I don't know, $200 per month selling my art. The same example can be with music. You can publish music these days online in services like Spotify, and you will start making money if you start having an audience. Now, it is very difficult to start having an audience. You have to be very good, and you have competition. It's for us, from Francesca and me, it's the same. We are writers. It's like there are millions of writers out there, and it's very overwhelming. It's like, whoa. But it is possible. You don't have to think like, oh, it is impossible to make money from this. It's like, it is always possible. You believe it, be patient, keep your main income, and you can think of your main income as helping you with your Ikigai. So it becomes more meaningful. That's, I have my daily job, which is 80% okay, is not 100%, but it allows me on my free time to start doing music or painting.